You know, sometimes you come across an idea that just feels, well, bigger than everyday stuff. Imagine, like, a universal library holding every single thought, every emotion, every action that's ever happened, all stored somewhere outside of time as we know it.
Hmm.
That's kind of the core of what we're diving into today, the Akashic Records. Ever get that feeling like there's some deeper wisdom we could maybe tap into?
It's a really compelling idea, isn't it? This sort of universal accounting of everything. The name itself, Akashic Records, it comes from Sanskrit.
Right, Sanskrit.
Yeah, Akasha means space or ether.
Mm-hmm.
It was seen as the fundamental substance underlying everything. So this ancient idea of a primary medium holding the entire history of the cosmos.
And this isn't some, like, recent invention, right? Our sources show it goes way back, echoes of it popping up in, well, vastly different cultures.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking ancient Egyptian priests, maybe the Greek oracles, Indian yogis deep in meditation. It even surfaces in some modern intuitive practices. It's like all these different paths point forwards, maybe accessing these extraordinary insights.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is that recurring theme. The language, the specific beliefs, they differ, sure. But the core idea, this all-encompassing field of information, it's remarkably consistent across these traditions. Makes you wonder if it points to something fundamental about reality.
Yeah, it really does. Which, I guess, leads to a pretty interesting question for everyone listening. We have these ancient ideas, centuries old, and then you look at modern science, some of the cutting-edge stuff, and you see these, well, intriguing parallels. Are things like quantum physics, you know, the holographic universe idea, non-local consciousness, or neuroscience, looking at the collective subconscious, or Sheldrake's morphic resonance? Are these maybe just modern ways of describing something the ancients kind of knew intuitively?
Is science catching up, maybe?
Right. Is it catching up in its own language?
It's a profound connection to think about. The frameworks are different, absolutely. But those underlying themes, interconnectedness, information being fundamental, a reality beyond our senses, they're definitely there in both ancient thought and some contemporary science. It really suggests a potential meeting of minds, so to speak.
Okay, so that's our launching pad. For this deep dive, we're going to explore these cultural views, look at where science might be nodding in the same direction, and maybe most interestingly, talk about how people have supposedly, you know, accessed this cosmic database.
Right.
So whether you're into personal growth or need some creative juice or just want the bigger picture, this could be, well, quite the journey. Ready to go deeper.
Absolutely. Let's start with that historical and philosophical background. Like we touched on, this old, really old. Different names, different cultures, but pointing towards this idea of an information field beyond just the material.
It feels almost innate, doesn't it? Like humanity has always sensed there's more going on. Our source really drives home how widespread this was. Cultures separated by huge distances and times hitting on similar ideas.
Exactly. Take the Vedic tradition in India. Akasha, for them, was the most fundamental element, the foundation.
Foundation, okay.
And in yogic texts, like Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, there's this concept, prapati, achieving all knowledge through really deep meditation. Yeah. The idea is, if your consciousness gets super clear, super still, it can resonate with this universal memory, accessing information almost like, well, like reading a book. It shows the power they believed a purified consciousness could have.
That's a powerful image. And then you jump over to, say, ancient Egypt. They had their Atet, the Hall of Records, right?
That's right, the Atet. The belief there was that pharaohs, high priests, they could access this place through rituals, maybe getting knowledge for building pyramids, understanding the stars, even medicine.
And wasn't Thoth, their god of wisdom, seen as the guardian of these records?
Indeed. Thoth as the keeper. It really shows how vital they thought this access was, crucial for their biggest achievements. Then if you go west to Greece, you find Plato.
Plato's world of forms.
Exactly. A compelling parallel. He argued our physical world is just a shadow.
A shadow?
Yeah, a shadow of these eternal perfect forms existing in a higher realm. His allegory of the cave, you know, people mistaking shadows for the real thing.
Right, chained in the cave.
It highlights needing to go beyond just our senses to grasp deeper truths. Very similar, really, to accessing the Akashic Records needing to transcend ordinary perception. The key insight is that more fundamental reality level.
It's amazing how these different paths seem to converge, and that thread continues, doesn't it, into medieval times?
It does. In Jewish Kabbalah, you have the Book of Life, seen as the record of every soul's journey, their destiny.
The Book of Life.
And Christian mystics spoke of the Book of God or the Book of the Lamb of Life. Again, this cosmic accounting of souls. The emphasis here is often on the individual soul's place within that bigger record.
And it's not just West and Middle East, is it? East Asia, too.
That's right. Taoism and Zen, they might not use the term Akashic Records, but the concept of the Tao functions very similarly.
Tao.
It's seen as the source of everything, the underlying principle, the information repository. Taoist practices like sitting in forgetfulness were aimed at becoming one with the Tao, gaining insight that way. So functionally, it's very much alike a source of knowledge accessed through mental discipline.
So this idea has been bubbling under the surface for ages, but how did it become more explicit in the, say, modern West?
Well, the Theosophical movement in the late 19th century was key. Madame Blavatsky, she really brought the term Akashic Records into Western awareness, described it as a cosmic imagery library.
Cosmic imagery library, okay.
Then Rudolf Steiner, also linked to Theosophy, expanded on it, called it cosmic memory. He even suggested ways to access it through specific consciousness training. They really provided the framework for understanding this ancient idea in a modern context.
And then you have Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, probably the most famous name associated with this.
Absolutely. Cayce's story is quite something. He gave nearly 40,000 readings while in a self-induced trance.
40,000?
Yeah, on everything imaginable. Ancient history, past lives, detailed medical diagnoses. And the striking thing, he'd use complex medical terms he couldn't possibly know consciously. And some of his treatments, later validated.
Wow.
It really makes you ask, where did that information come from? Suggests access to something beyond his normal awareness.
It definitely stretches the imagination, and it points to that profound philosophical idea our source raises. Maybe consciousness is fundamental, not matter.
Precisely. If these records exist, this universal information storehouse, it suggests information and consciousness might come first, that the physical world unfolds from that. It's a huge shift from a purely material view.
And it's wild how this ancient idea seems to resonate with some things in modern physics. Our source mentions John Wheeler's It from Bit and David Bohm's implicate order. Can you unpack those a bit?
Sure. Wheeler's It from Bit is this radical idea that information is the most basic thing, that physical reality, the it, arises from information, the bit.
Okay, information first.
And Bohm's implicate order suggests our perceived reality, the explicate order, unfolds from a deeper interconnected level, the implicate order, where everything is kind of holographic.
Holographic.
Yeah, like the whole is in every part. The parallel with the records is clear. Information is primary, everything's interconnected at some fundamental level.
Okay, so we've traced the history, touched on philosophy, potential science links. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are the Akashic Records actually like? Their nature, their structure?
Right, well, first key thing from our source, forget thinking of it like a literal library. It's described more as a dynamic living field. Or responsive. It transcends our normal ideas of space and time.
So not dusty books, more like a live interactive cloud.
Kind of, yeah. And it's a holographic. That's crucial. Like a hologram, each tiny piece holds the info for the whole picture.
It's a hole in every part.
Exactly. Which means, theoretically, you could access any information from any point. But clarity depends on your own state, your consciousness, your vibrational frequency, you could say. Cayce called it a huge cosmic web. Captures that interconnectedness well.
That's a powerful image. What about time? You said it transcends time. Transtemporal nature, the source calls it.
Yes, another mind bender. Past, present, future. They aren't linear like we experience them. They're said to exist simultaneously, maybe as different vibrational states.
Simultaneously?
Yeah, it echoes some ideas in physics about higher dimensions where time might be different. So the records aren't just history. They hold potentials, probabilities for the future too. Not a single fixed future, but pathways.
So it's like a library of what was, what is, and what might be.
In a sense, yes, which connects to resonant interactivity. Accessing it is like tuning a radio. You need to match the frequency.
Your consciousness needs to resonate.
Exactly. Your state of mind, your inner clarity, your thought patterns, they determine how clearly you receive the information. Explains why different people might get different insights from the same query.
Makes sense. Like tuning that radio dial. Now, our source mentioned a structure, almost like levels or archives, 7 of them.
Yes, it outlines 7 main levels. Think of it maybe like nested folders on a cosmic hard drive.
Okay, nested folders, I like that.
So level 1, individual records, that's your personal file, your soul's journey, past lives, purpose, potential paths, most accessible usually.
Got it, my folder.
Then human collective records, history of humanity, lost civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria, forgotten knowledge, the shared human folder.
Okay, humanity's shared drive.
Next, Earth records, the planet's history, geology, evolution of life here, Earth system files.
The planetary archive.
Then you go bigger, solar system records, then galactic records, then universal records for the whole cosmos, ever larger folders.
Whoa.
And at the very top, the source records, the fundamental blueprints, the source code for existence itself.
The ultimate source code. That's vast. And how is this info stored? Not English or Sanskrit, right?
No, not like human language. Our source says it exists as pure thought forms, symbols, energy patterns, maybe just direct knowing.
Raw data.
Sort of. When
Yeah.
someone accesses it, their own consciousness acts like a translator. It decodes that raw data into concepts, images, feelings they can grasp. That's why interpretations can differ.
So our mind filters and translates it based on our own background, and there's a link to our higher self too.
Yes, many traditions suggest our higher self, our soul essence, is inherently part of or connected to the Akashic Records. Like we have a built-in access point, it's just often obscured by the noise of daily life.
Okay, so we have this picture of what they are, but the science connection. It's intriguing, but not definitive, right? For a lot of people, that's the sticking point.
It's a very fair point. Mainstream science hasn't proven the Akashic Records. But what's fascinating is how some newer scientific ideas, especially from quantum physics, offer theoretical frameworks that could potentially support the concept. We're talking parallels, potential convergence, not proof.
Like zero-point field theory. Our source mentioned that.
Exactly. Quantum physics says even empty space, the vacuum, has energy fluctuations, the zero-point field. Some physicists, like Hal Puthoff, have speculated this field might be fundamental, underlying matter and energy, and could store information, non-locally, holographically.
Like a universal information seed.
Potentially, yes. Mirroring descriptions of the records.
And quantum entanglement. That sounds pretty out there.
It sounds wild, but it's real. Entangled particles stay connected, instantly influencing each other no matter the distance.
Instant connection.
Yeah. It points to a fundamental interconnectedness, an information transfer that bypasses space, which aligns with the non-local nature described for the records.
And the holographic universe idea we touched on.
Yes, Bowman-Prebrum's idea. If the universe is like a giant hologram, information everywhere, well, maybe the Akashic Records are how consciousness reads that hologram.
The universe is the hard drive. Consciousness is the reader. That's quite an analogy. What about quantum brain theories or biophotons?
Well, quantum brain theories, like Penrose-Hameroff's, propose the brain might operate quantumly. If so, maybe it could interact with a universal quantum information field, like the records.
Okay.
And biophoton research shows living things emit tiny light particles, biophotons. They might carry information within the organism. Could they also interact with larger information fields outside? It's speculative, but interesting.
Like subtle communication happening all the time. What about consciousness research itself, the Global Consciousness Project?
Yeah, that project found links between major global events and changes in random number generators worldwide. Suggests collective consciousness might have a subtle physical effect, hints at non-local influence. Other research, like into presentiment feeling future events, also points towards accessing information beyond linear time.
And Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance, that seems super relevant, the idea that learning gets easier as more people do it.
Exactly. Sheldrake proposes morphic fields hold a kind of collective memory for species, for activities, strengthened by repetition.
Collective memory fields.
Right. It could explain collective learning, maybe even some memory recovery after brain injury if memory isn't solely stored in the brain. He sees the brain more like a tuner, picking up info from these fields.
The brain as a tuner, not just a storage device. Interesting. And the HeartMath Institute's work, heart-brain coherence.
Fascinating stuff. When heart and brain rhythms sync up coherence, the heart's electromagnetic field gets stronger. And they've found hints the heart might receive intuitive info, maybe about future events.
Like the heart is an antenna.
Potentially a physiological way to interact with a broader information field, yes, through the heart's energy.
So, okay, no smoking gun proof from science yet, but lots of converging ideas from different fields pointing towards a universe where information, consciousness, interconnectedness, they're maybe more fundamental than we thought.
Precisely. Our source suggests this might hint at a paradigm shift coming, where information is seen as truly fundamental, maybe even the source of matter Wheeler's it from bit again. And that perspective, it resonates remarkably well with the ancient wisdom behind the Akashic Records concept.
Okay, we've covered the what, the history, the potential why from science. Now the part people are probably leaning in for, How can someone listening actually try to access these records? Our source lays out 7 methods. Let's unpack those.
Great. First up, and maybe the most common starting point, is the medication entry method.
Okay, meditation.
Yeah. Find a quiet spot, get comfy, relax your body, quiet your mind, maybe deep breathing. Set a clear intention. I wish to access the Akashic Records for insight on X. Then use visualization.
Visualization like?
A common one is imagining a column of light, ascending through symbolic barriers, reaching a peaceful, receptive space. Then you ask your question.
And the answers come how?
Could be images, feelings, a sudden knowing, symbols, even words. The key is patience. Be receptive, don't force it. And record what you experience afterwards, even if it seems small. It takes practice.
Right. Quiet the noise, tune in. Daily practice helps, even short sessions.
Yeah.
Okay, method 2. Guided dream access.
Yes. Since our analytical mind is quieter during sleep, dreams can be a more direct route sometimes.
Makes sense.
Before sleep, set a clear intention. Tonight, I will access the Akashic Records in my dreams regarding... focus on your question. Keep a journal right by your bed. First thing on waking, write down everything you remember.
Even fragments.
Especially fragments. Dream language is often symbolic. Recurring themes, strong emotions are important clues. Focusing on a symbol or feeling beforehand can sometimes steer the dream.
Okay, using the dream state. Method 3. Guided writing or automatic writing.
Right. Get into a light meditative state. Write your question down. Maybe state your intention out loud. Then just let your hand move across the page. Try not to think, not to edit.
Just let it flow.
Exactly. It takes practice to quiet that inner critic. At first, it might feel like just your own thoughts, but stick with it. You might notice shifts in style, vocabulary, ideas that feel different, like they're coming from elsewhere.
Bypassing the conscious filter. Okay. Method 4 uses sound induction.
Yes, using specific audio frequencies. Things like binaural beats, hemi-sync, or maybe Schumann resonance recordings. You listen with headphones.
What do the sounds do?
They help shift your brainwaves into more receptive states like theta or alpha. While listening, you focus on your question. Stay open, then record insights afterwards. It can really help if traditional meditation feels hard. The sound helps guide the brain state.
Using sound tech to get into the zone. Interesting. Method 5. Soul retrieval and past life exploration. This one often needs a guide.
Yes, usually done with a trained facilitator. You go into deep relaxation, and the guide leads you on a symbolic journey, maybe visualizing a tunnel or path.
A journey where?
Towards accessing relevant past life experiences. The intention is key, seeking insight related to a current issue or pattern. The guide asks questions to help explore the scenes, understand the links to now.
So it's about healing and understanding current life, not just curiosity.
Exactly. The focus is practical insight. Method 6. Sacred geometry activation. Sounds complex. It's a bit more advanced. It uses fundamental geometric patterns like the flower of life, Sri Yantra, as energetic keys.
Keys?
Yeah. You learn the forms, meditate on them visually. Then, in your mind's eye, you might project your consciousness into the center of the form, holding your intention. Different geometries are thought to resonate with different layers or types of information in the records. The flower of life, for example, is often linked to life's evolution.
So geometry is a tuning fork for specific cosmic info. Wow. Okay, last one, method 7. Breath-heart coherence entry.
This focuses on syncing your breath with your heartbeat. There are specific techniques for this. Research, like from HeartMath, shows this state of coherence enhances intuition.
Getting the heart and brain in sync.
Right. You combine that synchronized breathing with focusing attention on your heart center, maybe visualizing light there. Then express your intention from that heart space. It's thought to help bypass the analytical mind, allowing info to come through the heart's intuitive intelligence, its energetic field.
Creating inner harmony to become a clearer channel. And besides these specific methods, there are general tips.
Absolutely. Our source stresses things like maybe establishing some form of psychic protection first. Having clear, specific questions helps focus the access. Developing your own way to validate the information. Does it resonate? Does it prove useful over time? And practice, practice, practice. Consistency is key, even short bursts regularly. It's a skill that grows.
Really helpful pointers. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the big takeaways you'd want people to hold on to about the Akashic Records?
I think the main thing is it's more than just getting information. Engaging with this, however you do it, can be really transformative. Sharpened intuition, more synchronicity showing up, deeper understanding of your own life patterns, a greater sense of meaning and connection.
It's like shifting your whole perception of reality, maybe. That Eddington quote our source used. When you change how you observe reality, the observed reality itself also changes.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
You might start seeing things less as solid, separate bits, and more as this interconnected flow of information and consciousness. And practically, the applications are huge. Personal growth, creative blocks, healing insights, better decisions, understanding relationships, even getting a bigger perspective on, well, planetary stuff.
Sounds incredibly empowering.
Right.
Any final guidance for someone feeling drawn to explore this?
I'd say keep a balance. Healthy skepticism is good, but stay open-minded. Experiment, see what works for you. Trust your own inner sense of resonance. Does the information feel true and useful in your life? That's your best guide. Everyone's journey is unique. And remember, profound wisdom often comes simply. Don't overthink it.
Beautiful advice. It feels like the Akashic Records, whatever their ultimate nature, point towards a way of knowing that goes beyond just logic.
It really does. And maybe in these challenging times we live in, accessing that wider perspective, seeing things within a larger cosmic context, maybe that can bring some peace, some sense of direction. It becomes less about just finding answers and more about entering into a dialogue, a dance with universal wisdom.
So for everyone listening, as you ponder this immense realm, maybe ask yourself, if you could get information from all time and space, what one question matters most to you right now? What answer might spark the biggest transformation? Perhaps that's the perfect place to start your own journey.
And just remember, every step inward is also an exploration of the universe. Every connection made is really a reunion with your own deeper self, your soul. Like the old Hermetic saying, as above, so below, as within, so without. The keys might just be hidden inside your own consciousness, waiting. So may your exploration bring discovery, healing, insight. May you find wisdom beyond just data and maybe even deeper questions than answers. Perhaps the biggest secret is that the records aren't just out there, but also right here within you, waiting to be remembered.